but it's getting like 80. He has only like 250,000 followers. He gets 80,000 likes each, and like the engage hundreds of comments. And that wouldn't hit 4 years ago.
James, we're thrilled to have you on the show today, man. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, sir, man. You've taken an incredible path, right? You've scaled some strategies and some brands for influencers, athletes, some of those examples being NFL, UFC, the Hormozi family, Mike Tyson, so on and so forth, man. You're now stepping into launching your own ventures, continuing to connect high-profile individuals with top-tier resources. So, dude, essentially, you're the go-to connector of the industry, right? That's a major person to be. All right, so let's dive into that. What first drove you to carve out this path for yourself?
I think I grew up in an entrepreneurship environment. Like when I was younger, my dad was working 5 a.m. I'd wake up, I have no idea what he's doing on his computer on the couch. And he was making money. That's all I knew. And later I knew he ended up he had a cake business, he had a real estate business, mortgage, etc. And he would always build his businesses up, sell them, and then go on to the next venture. So I grew up in that environment. I wanted to get more evidence as I got older. And like, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And then I thought after I was done at Vayner, working there, I was going to open up my own business and start an agency. But I just didn't have enough evidence yet. So I wanted to get more of that. So then I went over to acquisition.com and then have more proof to show that I'm good at what I'm going to say, what I say I do. And then, yeah, that was basically it.
For sure, man. And talk us through some of those first experiences, right? Because you're out of college, you got a sports management degree, but you've kind of ended up taking it along a little bit of a marketing route, if you will. Talk us through kind of that first venture and really what made you realize, man, this is something that I'm pretty good at.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to work so I was a big Entourage fan back in college. And I knew I wanted to work in, I always get me excited when I watch that show. I wanted to work in talent, entertainment, sports, media. I just didn't know how to get in there because I really didn't have any skills coming out of college. I like to say I got a degree in beer, basically at school. And then I was good at networking with people and the social skills. That's what college, I really think, at the core, it showed me and prepared me the most was my social skills. So I did what I do best is that. Out of college, I applied. I was a Gary Vee fan. And so I applied. I got in the door as an executive assistant, and I also applied to multiple other agencies because I wanted to go to a place that had everything that I wanted to do, like entertainment, like they had talent representation, they had media, sports. So I kept applying to CAA, the Wassermans of the world, IMG, Endeavor, Vayner. And then I just wanted to get into one of those. So I waited a while too. I waited, all my friends got jobs. I waited about 2 years while I worked landscaping and internships, free internships to get the experience in the talent agency world. And then I got in the door of Vayner, and then I kind of did what I do best and made relationships and good friendships with people in departments that I wanted to go to. So I got in the production realm. I knew nothing about production. I walked on set the first day and I was clueless. It was very wild, actually. But Aaron Covan showed me the ropes. He's the man. He's now the chief production officer at McCann, which is one of the biggest agencies in the world. So when I went from there, I made relationships with VaynerTalent, Vayner Sports. I started helping Vayner Sports with events for the ESPY, Super Bowl, et cetera, all the big events. And then I was at VaynerTalent. So then I fell in love with the personal branding side of things and building brands in general for other people. And helping them with that and content production, content management, all the above. When I was at VaynerTalent, when I was working with Jesse Palmer, Bernie Kosar, Ray Lewis, Rich Eisen, and helping them doing events and the marketing for them and the content behind their personal brands in various aspects, helping them with their contracts and whatnot. I just fell in love with that. And yeah, the rest is history. That's when I fell in love. I kind of just went from Vayner to acquisition.com because it was a bigger stepping stone to kind of build it on my own, per se. I got to help build the team, help build their brands, and I was one of the OG people on the media team instead of coming to an established VaynerTalent company and then helping these people build their brands.
Was there a moment early on that kind of had you get noticed within the sports and entertainment industry? Obviously, starting off from your point, walking in and not knowing anything day one, it sounds like you probably had to do a lot of work to build up your credibility and build up your own brand, even within the company itself. Was there kind of a turning point that led you to, hey, this guy knows what he's doing?
I think that turning point came at acquisition.com. But to get to that point, it was just been building the relationships with the people, like getting into Vayner Sports, VaynerTalent. It was just doing stuff for free. Just like when, like if they needed help. The first time I worked at Vayner Sports, I did SB's event totally for free. I was like, I'll help you guys get the videographers for the event. I'll review any of the content. I'll help put together the strategy. I'll help find a location for you guys. And like, I just did it all on the side while I was still working at Vayner Productions. And then that led to me helping them more and more and more. Once I got to know everyone there. Same thing with VaynerTalent. Like one of the partners that ran VaynerTalent, I would just send him research on different people they represented. And like, if I saw something in the news about one of the clients or something, I would share it with them and like give my 2 cents or just help them in any way possible. Like if they had an event upcoming, I'd help them find the location. I'd offer my help for how they're going to go to market with like a product they're going to launch for one of their clients. A brand that might reach out to me that for Vayner Productions, I would go back to VaynerTalent and be like, oh, this would be good for one of your clients. I think like it'd be worth a conversation. Just like providing value for free, like with asking nothing in return and just building that up and building that relationship until you feel it when it's a good point to like make that move to be like, hey, I would like to like work here more and more. And you'll know when that's the right time over time.
For sure. So it almost sounds like regardless of the work you need to get done, you knew you could do it. So essentially the skill set you were having was continuing to grow that networking and that relationship type skills, right?
Yeah. And just diving into stuff, man. Like I didn't necessarily have the skills. Like I had no idea how to scout a location. I had no idea how to put together a contract or negotiate or even build or market someone in general. I just went at it like trial and error. Like I went at it. I looked like a fool half the time. But then you learn from that. Like it was just like diving into things and getting in that nitty gritty work and learning over time. It wasn't rocket science. It still never is.
And did they throw you into these big brands, up front, right? With these very well established brands where you're already working on some of their projects and some of their events, or was it kind of a slow build up?
Slow build up. Some of them like you get thrown in the fire, but like you work your way and you have your team with you. So you're never like by yourself.
For sure. No, that makes sense, man. And to that point, as you've kind of grown on to do some of your own things now, do you kind of see yourself still doing similar approach to growing brands, or do you kind of have your own approach now with your connections and the Rolodex?
It depends if you're if you want to build you're an entrepreneur, you want to build your personal brand or like your product service-based brand. It changes over time. Like I think building your personal brand is different than 4 years ago when I was trying to help like a Jesse Palmer build it. Like the approach is a bit different because everything has evolved. Different platforms, there's different features on different platforms. Everyone's viewpoints are different. Like it's changed.
And I guess on that point, man, what are some of the things that you've seen change over time? You've mentioned products, you mentioned personal brands. What are some of the things that have changed 4 years ago till today?
4 years ago to today, I would say mainly it's obviously we all know what's today, Election Day. I think people's viewpoints on a lot of different topics have changed. The way people film their content is different. How people pay attention to, or you garner people's attention from an actual clip is a lot different. Like stuff, I guess I would say green screens were big 4 years ago. I guess they're not as big to an extent today. Everything's like these montage clips I was looking at today that this one dude is getting, Alfie Gets Hard is his account name. He's getting incredible engagement off of these little montage clips where like he'll discuss like a specific topic like productivity or health. He's a health and fitness kid. And he would have just like a little music in the background with him. He's ripped and he would just like show little montage clips of like upbeat, like happy vibes. And he would have like a nice just cap. It's so simple, but it's getting like 80. He has only like 250,000 followers. He gets 80,000 likes each and like the engaged hundreds of comments. And that wouldn't hit 4 years ago. Like that's just, it's just different all around. You just have to be on top of you have to be tapped into the industry to say the least. Like you have to be paying attention to that stuff all the time.
For sure. And it's definitely funny thinking back about those green screens, man. When you were in COVID, everybody for work or for school or whatever, you'd have some crazy screen behind you. And it was good, because everyone that's like, yeah, this is what we're doing. We got crazy bed behind us. So I'm going to throw a green screen on it,
Yeah.
Up to that point, things have changed. So how do you feel like you're staying up to date with that, right? As the green screen goes out and now you're trying to find new ways to set up your set or your props or whatever, how are you staying tapped in?
I think it's always just whenever I'm watching content on my phone, it's always thinking about like, how could I cater this to, how could I spin this piece of content? Like anything that gets my attention, how could I spin this for one of my clients? Like I always used to do that. And I would always used to do that for Alex and Layla. Like I would be looking at different content all the time. We're on our phones, but like, I think a lot of people aren't looking at it and then thinking like, oh, how can I spin this for myself, my personal brand? Like any piece of content, if it's something about the devil or Barney, like trying to like put them together, and trying, but that's just like, obviously I'm being sarcastic, but yeah, trying to put your own spin on it for whether it's yourself or your client all the time. It's tough. It's a challenge.
For sure. And so, yeah, so if we kind of focused in on like the small business, the small entrepreneurs really trying to get themselves going, man, where do you feel like would be a good spot for them to start building the brand? Or do you feel like early on building that personal brand through social media or other avenues is kind of the first step? Do you feel like there's some stuff in the middle?
Well, yeah, you want to start small. Like if it depends, like everyone is in a different scenario and like a different spot. So I would start small in terms of like obviously your team, the amount of platforms you're on, and then the audience. You want to narrow down like who are you selling to? Like who do you want to go after? If you're not going after anybody, you're not really a brand. If you're just trying to like please everyone, it's like more or less like commodity. So yeah, I would start small, period. Depending on what industry you're in is going to dictate the platform that you're going to go to start out with. And then narrow down your audience and who you want to go after. And then start with a small team. Like if you have the money, do it on your own, work in CapCut, film on your phone if you have to. And use a little ragtag light like I got right here. That's like the size of my fist that I have underneath my monitor here. But yeah, start small. Those are the three key things.
Well, and to your point of finding that audience, once you kind of have an idea of who you want to target, or you're even in that community, how do you know what content or what items to put in front of them? Obviously, you can match what everyone else is doing, but sometimes that strategy is a horrible strategy. Sometimes you need to be unique. How would you kind of approach that situation?
I think the uniqueness comes from yourself. Like just like any other, you implement your brand within your content like very subtly. Like you don't have to always putting CTAs on every single post is weird. I think that's very odd to do and is outdated. It used to work. It turns people off. And the uniqueness of your brand is initially when you're starting out is you're going to be providing the knowledge, and it all depends like what you're doing too. Like, are you selling a product? Are you selling like clothes? Is it a clothing line, or are you a restaurant? Like that'll dictate like what you're doing. You could do like, if you're a restaurant, you can mix in more like employee content as well. Like series content where you're interviewing the chef, or like you're asking somebody, one of the waitresses, like you're doing a prank. Or and then like if you're more or less like a clothing line, like how you manufacture the clothing, the origin story behind your brand, like who you are, who's the founder, who's the co-founder, how do you structure your org chart, how do you work with your employees, building that team, what it took, like everything behind it. There's so many different clips you could do. And you could turn every one of those clips into a carousel post. You could turn it into a still image post. You could turn the still image into a reel, so you get higher engagement on it, or higher non-follower engagement on it. It really depends, honestly.
Well, it sounds like that's definitely a strategy that's working today. You know, a lot of today's stuff that you are seeing is a lot of behind the scenes. It seems to be people are looking for like authenticity, uniqueness in a brand. And to see what's going on behind the scenes builds that trust, and so that's definitely, I think, a solid strategy to that point. And I love that, man, outside of the Rolodex, where you've stepped off in some of your own entrepreneurial journey, you've also broken into personal brands with products, right? You've founded Gamblin Golf, right? And so talk to us a little bit about that approach. Now we're talking in the product world. How did you initially approach building that brand?
I didn't found Gamblin Golf. One of my buddies started it, and now I hopped in. And now we like partly own it together, but I never was a founder. One of my good friends, Teddy, was, but building that has been fun. It's more or less like a side project that we've just been having fun with. We don't really put like a ton of time and effort into it per se, because we work with a ton of different clients. It's more or less just a fun side project. It's golf balls. And I explained to you guys what they were. It's $sign on one side, $2 on the other. One of the games is the OG game is whatever side lands up is what you put into the pot. Whoever wins the hole wins the pot. But we've changed it to about like 30 plus games that we have listed out in the box for you guys. And then when you buy the box, you'll see all the games. You could choose one of the games to play with the ball or the balls, or you could just come up and be creative with it. Like you have your own options, just have fun with it. Building that brand has just been fun, man. It's all like you're out on the course, you're just having fun with the guys, like playing. We put the GoPro up. We have little skits here and there that we put up, but mainly it's like we're just going out, vlogging it. And then whatever happens, happens. And then we clip it. Like sometimes if we don't feel like we got anything that day, I have like a list. That's what me and the cart were like, list out like a bunch of different things we could do on the course. And we just capture that. We haven't really been doing anything other than that because we haven't had a film day where we go to on set and talk more about the product, like building it, manufacturing, and being founders, like the behind the scenes stuff, running ads, like all of that. Just been going out, having fun, playing golf and building the brand. And so far it's been working. Had our best month last month. Instagram's grown. We've had it run it for like 5 months. We're at 6,000. Like with barely any time put into it weekly. It's just been fun. Yeah. Just having a good time with it.
Hell yeah. I love that. And I think to your point, it's different than the strategy we just talked about, right? Behind the scenes approach is, hey, but with the smaller product, it's a lot more about being involved with a group and a family, family, friends. It's not like all a good time. You kind of want to show that time with the product versus, oh, hey, behind the scenes is how we make it. No. Here's what you can expect to play this game or things to play like. It kind of seems like
that's the whole vibe we're going for. It's just like, this is the fun that you can have when using the product, like painting that image. Like it's not a product where we want to, because golf is meant to be fun. Basically that's like one of our, would say slogans, like putting the fun back into golf. Everyone gets all pissed playing golf because everyone stinks, but we're not pros around here. We don't play enough. So we just have fun with it. And we want to show people that, yeah, it could be fun. Even if you suck, you could still have fun, gamble a little bit, $1, $2. Because when you play it, I haven't gotten over $50 before. I've lost $50, but that's it. That's the highest by like landslide. No one I know has gone over that too. It's not like you're like dropping a ton of money. It's just like a little fun wager.
And when this being a little bit of a side project, obviously to make money is good, but to your point, it's slow growth. It's behind the scenes. You're enjoying while it's up, it's up. You know what I mean? So with that, right now is a lot of your growth strategies kind of growing the social medias, spreading awareness, but you're not too worried about pushing product heavy.
Yeah, it's literally that. We're just trying to spread awareness right now, little by little. Like we run our ads. You don't spend a ton of money on the paid ads. We're just letting those run, posting here and there. Like I said, our main focus is like media engineering, the Rolodex, which is like the Rolodex is my agency, media engineering. Me and Teddy do it together. Those are two focuses right now because eventually you build it up, media engineering, to a point where it'll be like almost like a machine where you could run a brand like Gamblin Golf through that funnel. And then it'll come out on the other side, like a catapulted brand that is thriving.
For someone looking for the same casual approach, is Instagram for you the one-stop shop, or are you kind of looking at some other areas as well?
Instagram and Facebook go hand in hand. Because when you create an Instagram account, you should have a Facebook page attached to it. Because why not? Because you would just cross post on both. Facebook will take drastically longer to build, but it has the biggest audience in the world and will hit the most people. It just takes a lot more time to build.
That makes sense, man. I kind of want to clean that up, just make sure, hey, okay, what else is out there? But no, just to that point, you touched on media engineering. So what's kind of the focus with media engineering and where you want to take that?
I'll back to the last question. It's also depends on, like, for casual posting like that, it depends, man. Like what industry you're in. Like we do golfing, so it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. One has the biggest audience, one has the youngest audience, and then Instagram is more like mainstream and has like is the middle ground and is the most active. But what was the last one? The question you just asked? What is media engineering?
No, you're good. I'm curious to touch on that a little bit. So with your ads, then are you mostly pushing ads through ones to, again, hit your target audience? So if your youngest audience is the audience you're trying to target, you're only hitting ads there, or are you hitting ads on some of the other apps just to grow that awareness?
But we'll use creators for the TikTok ads. Like, so we have specific, like, I have a lot of friends that just do it for me that have like solid followings on TikTok. Like they'll repost it, and plus we'll run our own TikTok ads with the clips that they made for us. And we'll run those on Facebook as well, but we also make our own. Like when we're out in the course, those are some of the things that are on my list that I said it was in the cart. We just film like a couple ads that are more like staged out and are clean and produced.
Well, that must be an idea too, because it seems like you're working with not necessarily smaller, but to your point, not necessarily massive influencers. So I have heard this like idea of like micro influencers or just people locally within an environment or community being pretty productive, right? So if you're a small ice cream shop in a small town, it may be helpful to don't worry about going for the top tier influencer. Go for some little micro influencer in town who posts about foodie stuff. It sounds like, is that kind of a similar approach in this mindset?
Yeah. Yeah. I liked it's more of like a new wave with like the micro influencers. Because think about it, like the ones that are micro influencers, they have a small audience. It's like extremely loyal. Like they're following them early. Like they must really like them. Like their audiences are a lot more loyal. So when they're posting their content, their audience is more likely to trust their opinion than someone that has like 5 million followers. Like people follow those people just to follow them at times because they have a large following and they go, it's just cool. But like those smaller audiences and micro influencers, they have a brand with this small audience that they currently built that's extremely loyal. So if they post something, most likely their audience is going to trust it a hell of a lot more.
And sometimes, again, I've heard this recently, so I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but I've heard too that like as you're a micro influencer looking to grow, you're more dedicated to the opportunities you get from products or just opportunities in general. So to that point, do you feel like those small influencers would be more driven to push your product if commission was involved or some kind of like a monetary value was involved?
Yeah. Because if you're a bigger influencer, you also have like more cooks in the kitchen. Like you'll have like your agent involved. You might have a manager, like like these smaller influencers. Sometimes it's just them and like a parent, and it's easier to work with them. And plus, they obviously all around there'll be less money, less amount of product to give them, less equity. It's just easier for any like small business to work with them.
Have you worked with any of those micro influencers to kind of grow them and make them larger? Or are you mostly working with pretty well established influencers yourself and some of your other ventures?
Yeah, a couple. I've worked with like the Planet Life Chose Us. She does like menopause, vegan diets. She's done well. Rose, the Hitters Lab, Corey Gregory. He was at the founder of Muscle Farm. Doug Bops. Doug runs a podcast. I forgot I'm sorry, Doug, if you ever see this. I forgot your podcast name. But yeah, I have.
Is the approach to that kind of keeping them in that micro influencer space, if you will, and just getting them in front of more brands, or is it kind of a twofold? You're also trying to grow their reach and whatnot as well.
I'm not trying to get them in front of more brands if that's their goal. But most of the time, they're trying to build business. Like they're trying to draw awareness to their company, their products, their services. So you need to build that association of trust and value, and like build that loyalty with your audience. They need to associate like all the value you're giving them and with your brand, and trust with your brand. Oh, and that only happens over time and consistent content being put out.
So then for someone who maybe doesn't necessarily have a solid product behind them or a business, would you still see there be a reason for someone to grow their personal brand? Like, let's just say myself, right? I don't have a ton going for me. I work at 9 to 5, right? Is it still worth growing my own brand, knowing that maybe I want to do something in the future, or do I wait until that date kind of comes up to really worry about that?
No, you can still post. Like you can still, but like it depends. Like what do you want to talk about? Like if you want to be knowledgeable, are you knowledgeable about a specific topic that you want to speak more to? Like, what could you provide to people that they're going to want to see? You know, like you're always going to have unique content because you're unique to everyone else in the world. But like, what are you going to provide them? Why would I want to pay attention to you? And like, why would I follow you? What are you providing me? Other than that, you're just shooting fish like in a barrel. I mean, you're just just throwing up shots and not making anything. You're just putting stuff out there. I mean, go in there with like a plan. What do you want to provide people? Like, what are your content buckets? What do you value? Narrow that down. Like your brand guidelines. I have a whole document. I like a template I hand to clients right after we are on our first call. I'll hand it to them before the first call that they fill out. Just take a stab at it, and it's literally lays out everything. What your brand is, your mission statement, your values, content pillars, and it's even if you don't know them, take a guess or like just leave it blank, and we'll talk about it more. Your logo, what the idea of the logo is, like how are you currently posting? What are your guidelines for those posts on those platforms? How many times are you posting a week? Like, these are all questions I want them to at least try to answer, because it's all questions we're going to need to answer anyway while we're working together.
So for the individual, worry less about the audience up front and more so, yeah, kind of just the typical,
Figure out what you want to post.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, cool, man. Well, awesome. And then looking back, are there any key skills that you've developed that someone should use to be successful in their own media and content generation?
Communication is key, like verbal communication, being able to explain. Like, I still struggle with this and trying really hard to get better at it, is like explaining your thoughts in a clear and concise way that's like compelling and like draws people in, and like really, really they understand what you're trying to explain. That being resourceful is big. Like, especially when you're starting out early in your career, trying to just diving in and just doing many things to see like what you like, but also at the same time throughout that process of trying so many things, you're building so many different skills. Like, you could be doing tech one day, like learning Excel and trying to do something for someone, and then the following day you're working in Photoshop and like trying to do a little graphic design work for another project. Like, you're just kind of throwing up shots in that, but in a good way. So yeah, being resourceful. And honestly, those are two big ones. And just hustle. Just straight up, like, just hustle, man. Like, you're going to have to either way if you want to succeed in something. So might as well start early.
Was there anything about your hustle and your entrepreneurial mindset that like you kind of had to overcome when stepping out of your 9 to 5 and really, really going full stroke into your entrepreneurial journey?
I think getting out of my own head, I still struggle with that. Like, doing things without like not caring about what other people think. Probably the biggest thing, especially as like an entrepreneur. It's like, I think being productive as well as an entrepreneur, like, people overlook that a lot. Because when you're working as an employee, you have deadlines. Like, you have to get this done. You do various things daily that are like XYZ. Like, these are your tasks. Like, as an entrepreneur, you're making, like, you have unlimited things to do, but you have to really narrow down your focus and prioritize daily, like, what's going to move the needle every day. And you have to fight that urge every day. Like, I don't have to work. No one's paying. Like I run my own thing. Like, these clients are paying, obviously, but I don't have to. Like, I run the show. I don't have to work. Like, you're fighting that urge to not do things some days, and it's just like staying productive day in and day out. Like, really is a struggle. Like, keeping your head on straight, because you miss. A habit's not a habit anymore if you skip 2 days. So yeah. That's like the two, I would say.
For sure, man. No, and we appreciate all your insights and your experience. Has been super helpful. To finish some of that off, man, is there any like books or resources that you used early on or that you're using now that you would recommend others to kind of help grow and impact their career?
Yeah. I got a bunch, actually. The Almanac by Naval Ravikant, very good. Herding Tigers is a creative book that I love. It's really, really good. Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck was awesome, by Mark Manson. Michael Ovitz. Who is Michael Ovitz? If you're into talent world, very cool one. He's the guy who started CAA. His stories are incredible. He like bridged the gap in between when they started packaging movies, and like his stories with a lot of these celebs. So he started like, instead of just representing the actors, he put like the studios, the packaging, the studios, he'd represent the actual studio themselves, the directors, the producers, and package them all together for one film. And he was like the pioneer of that. And his stories are incredible. A very good book. Atomic Habits is good. The Psychology of Money. That's a good one.
I got that one wrapped up for next. I'm excited for that one.
Psychology of Money is good.
Cool, man. Well, dude, we appreciate your time, dude. This has been a great episode, and man, we wish you the best.
No, I appreciate it, guys. This is awesome. Thanks for having me.